I'd like to welcome everyone to this evening's Board of Directors meeting on this 23rd day of February 2021. We'll begin the meeting with an invocation by Rajan Zed, President of Universal Society of Hinduism. He'll be on Zoom, and I'll follow the prayer with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
My hearty thanks for Mayor Pat McCabe, Directors and Manager Burrow for scheduling me to read invocation for the great city of Hot Springs. I shall be reading in Sanskrit from ancient Hindu scriptures, some as old as 1500 BCE, then interpret in English. Om Bhuvah Svah Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yona Prachodayat. We meditate on the transcendental glory of the Deity Supreme, who's inside the heart of the earth, inside the life of the sky, and inside the soul of the heaven. May He stimulate and illuminate our minds. Astoma Sadgamya Tamsoma Jyotirgamya Mrityor Mamratam Gamya. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Tasmada Asakta Statam Karyam Karma Samachara Asakto Hyacharan Karma Parma Panoti Purusha Karmanevahi Samsiddhi Mastita Jankadaya Loka Sangreha Mevapi Sampashankar Tumrahasi. Strive constantly to serve the welfare of the world. By devotion to selfless, one attains the supreme goal of life. Do your work with the welfare of others always in mind. Om Saha Navavtu, Saha Nobunaktu, Saha Viryan Karva Bahai, Tijasvina Vaditamastu, Ma Vidvisa Bahai. May we be protected together, may we be nourished together, may we work together with great vigor, may our study be enlightening, may no obstacle arise between us. Samniva Akuti, Samna Hridyaniva, Samnamastu Mano Yathavasu Sahasti. United your resolve, united your hearts, may your spirits be at one, that you may long together dwell in unity and concord. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday. Here. Director Elaine Jones. Director Elaine Jones.
Here.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. Now we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business? Hearing none, please entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Director Trustee, seconded by Director Dobbs-Smith. All in favor of the agenda as presented, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Now we'll consider approval of the minutes of the specially called meeting on February 2nd and the regularly scheduled held meeting on February 2nd. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to these minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Director Dobbs-Smith, who made the second?
Director Jones.
Director Jones. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests, representing Hot Springs Metro Partnership and the Chamber of Commerce, Michelle Ratcliffe and Mr. Cole McCaskill. Please come forward. Thank you for coming, spending the evening with us.
Thank you and good evening. Gary Troutman does send his apologies. He is out of town, returning later tonight. He was out of town with his family for a pretty significant birthday for his wife. I won't tell the age, but it ends in 0. So he's asked us to stand in his stead. So thank you. He did give us pretty significant and lengthy report when we did meet with you on January the 12th for the agenda meeting. So I will just pick up our activities since that point. We did have later that week on the 14th, we did meet a second time with Rick Neal. Rick Neal is the gentleman who's hired by the State Chamber of Commerce that is bringing that Ready for Life program. It's an online platform to build industry and students and education together for their future growth, for jobs, for employers, for both sides. So he met with our advanced manufacturers that he's been meeting with again. On the 16th, I'm assuming many of you also, but Gary also attended the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. prayer breakfast that morning. We did attend a Strive open house. Strive is a program through Euler in Little Rock. It helps to build, workforce is our initiative, our major initiative for this going forward for the indefinite future. Strive actually embeds a teacher into a manufacturing setting, so then they're able to take what they've learned in that actual setting back to the classroom to enhance the learning opportunities for their students. So we've been involved with that for the past 2 or 3 years. We did have several meetings regarding the ACTI property, a couple of different groups in on the 22nd of January. Again, we've had one, Pacebert, who is the gentleman who bought the VA hospital in Little Rock. We did reach out to him to see if he might have any interest in the ACTI property as well. So he did come into town on the 28th and met with all of us. He brought some of his staff and people working with him out of Little Rock, brought them over for the day as well. So they toured the property. We had a long meeting with him. He's another one, with some interest for that property. So we're not sure really where that will go, but we are staying on top of everything. The day before that, though, Cole and Gary did meet with Scott Larson. He's the manager at the Arlington Hotel. So they were able to tour the Arlington and saw some pretty new remodeling and work that's been done there. And I know he visited with them about some more of his future plans for the hotel. We did have, it's an MSA, and I apologize for the acronym. Most of you probably know Metropolitan Statistical Area. So there's some discussion about a reduction of, it's going to result in a reduction of MSAs in the area. What it does is it's going to change the base population of the base city for an area. How that affects us is that, and many of you probably know this as well, it could potentially affect some federal funding through CBDG grants. It also affects us from the standpoint of trying to recruit companies for us to have access to data. Then when we need to complete RFPs and so forth to do recruiting or complete those requests. So by reducing the number of MSAs in the state, it's going to hurt a lot of communities. And so we're working with some of the areas that might potentially lose that as well, but we are working with Congressman Westerman's office. He's very aware of it. We had a call last week. They had a call with Senator Bozeman's office. So that is something that we're definitely trying to work on to help all of our communities around the state. We had that call. We also have had 3 new project calls. 2 are brand new projects that we are really working with and hoping that will continue to grow. Had those calls with AEDC as well for those projects, and then one that we've been working on that we hope to have an announcement sometime soon within the next maybe month or 2 at the most. So that's definitely something that we're really excited about and looking forward to. We did have also, again, we've had another meeting with Rick Neal for the Ready for Life program across the state. And actually, for later this week, actually Thursday, he will be back in town, and we will have our third meeting with our advanced manufacturers. The Ready for Life program rolls out and goes live on March 28th, so we're really down to the wire. And actually, we're very fortunate that Garland County and Hot Springs and these manufacturers are going to be the first to be able to get into this program, to start setting up their profiles, to start using those resources for their employees, to bring in employees and for our students to bring those groups together. We also will be bringing back in person our workforce committee meeting will be Thursday morning as well. So we've had a little bit of a break due to a little thing called COVID. So we're actually really excited about bringing that back in now in person and get that work going back again with so many of those individuals that are on that committee. We've been really busy with, again, we've had some interest with these some projects going on. Had several meetings also with Tri-Lakes MPO Technical Advisories, also the Workforce Board that is managed through West Central Planning and Development. So we've been quite busy with some of those meetings as well since we've met with you in January. That'll conclude my report, but I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Ratcliffe?
Yes, Mayor. This is Karen Garcia. I have a couple of questions.
Proceed.
Thank you. Michelle, what can we do to help oppose the reduction in area MSAs?
Well, I think there's so much unknown really right now as far as really how it's going to be proceeding through the Senate and through the House. I know we've really been trying to talk with Congressman Westerman's office, Senator Bozeman's office, but I know they're trying to get a plan together. They've also been involved. Several of the communities like Jonesboro, Pine Bluff, Texarkana will also be communities that will lose their MSA status through that. So I know all of those economic development and chamber leaders are working together as well. So if we get to the point that we have that plan of action where we can call in the troops, so to speak, I know we'll be in touch and we'll let you know how you can support that.
So do you have bill numbers?
I don't have bill numbers. I don't know if there's actually been bills assigned to that or if it's just the talk that's coming out.
Just the
From Washington.
preamble to bills?
Yeah, I know. I just
Okay.
know we're trying. I don't know of any specific bill numbers at this
You'll
point.
let us know if we need to contact, sending calls and emails, that type of thing.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We're just
Okay.
we're trying to get out of panic mode at the moment.
I understand. On the Ready for Life, you were mentioning that companies to sign into their profile, it sounded like you said manufacturing companies. Does that include service, customer service, and other service areas? I have several businesses that are like childcare centers and other service industries that are always trying to find workers that are difficult to find.
It will involve all aspects of employment. To start that focus group, we started with our advanced manufacturers because manufacturing was so critical going forward. But it has healthcare. It has unbelievable every job career that you can think of that will be built into that. So that was just our starting point.
Okay, thank you. But it will include all.
It will. I would also encourage them to contact the Workforce Board, which is through the Department of Workforce Services. The Arkansas Job Link is an online posting board that they might be interested in putting their positions out there as well.
Very good. Any more questions of Michelle?
It's just getting the qualified workers that'll help. My last question was, is the chamber still emailing out the chamber's legislative updates?
Yes.
for the state?
Yes.
Can you add all the board members to that email? Because I haven't been receiving this year.
Sure. We'll be glad to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other director with questions of Michelle? Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Cole, are you giving a report?
I'm good.
You're all good? Very good. All right, well, at this time, we'll hear from our city manager on the state of the city.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I get into the state of the city, I just want to recognize several employees that have really just have done amazing things over the past week as we battled this frigid cold, the ice, the snow. Some community leaders, Trish Nooner, Kim Carter with CCMC, Sally Carter, and just the hospitality of First United Methodist Church in setting up that warming center. I know that our police was very involved in making stops, and in the latter couple of days having someone stationed there. They were very appreciative of that. We started out the week with our first snow event, and I can't say enough of how proud I am of the work our Public Works and Street did during that time in clearing streets. Then we got the 0 degree day in another battle, another weather event that came on for a couple of days, added about another 6 to 8 inches, and that kind of fell on top of snow. We went through about 640 tons of sand, about 320 tons of salt. Several years ago, we outfitted all of our 7 sanding trucks with plows, so we were able to plow on the front and treat in the back. We averaged about 5 of those a day that were running 24-hour shifts, 7P to 7A with one group and 7A to 7P with another. But they did a phenomenal job. Didn't make it to all the side streets, but we had some of the best main arterial and collector streets that they were always passable. So very proud of that crew. And then we entered into the 3,000 plus pipe bursts that we had. As we've seen from all over really the Mid-South, from Texas, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, we've had systems all across those states losing their water system. Our neighboring water systems have lost theirs. We had Benton in a state of emergency, Pine Bluff in a state of emergency. We lost service to less than 1% of our customer base, and that's just phenomenal. And that took a lot of work from a lot of guys. We had 92 employees in utilities alone that were out either shutting water off, trying to conserve that water, or manipulating pumps, manipulating valves, pushing water to different pressure planes within the system, so we kept pressure in the system. Those that we lost were typically in higher elevations or in upper floors of buildings. As of yesterday, day before yesterday, that started coming back on. We were at 68% this morning. We're about 71% in our tank levels now, in our overall capacity. We'll probably continue the conservation requests, as well as manipulating some of those valves and pumps overnight from 12 to 8 each night until we get those tanks at least up in the 85 percentile. But really proud of all of those employees and the firefighters. Chief Davis called and said, is there anything we can do to help? We gave him a list that was pages upon pages long, and he distributed those out to the firemen, and they were out turning off that water. We were receiving a little over 200 calls a day, plus in our HMI system, the way we bill, we're able to see meters that run continuously. So we were tracking those, and I can tell you that we saw over 20 to 30 that were running 1,000 gallons an hour, and we had some that were 5,500 gallons an hour. 45. We had one today that wasn't on there yesterday that was 4,500 gallons an hour. Just the efforts of everybody involved got us through this storm, and just very appreciative to see the teamwork that came together. It looked like mass chaos in the beginning, but it was managed really, really well, and just appreciate all those that took care of not only us but our users throughout the entire system. So want to acknowledge them. Getting into the state of the city, you know, I think we can all agree that 2020 has certainly been a year like no other. In short order, a virus upended many sectors of the economy, sent ripples across every corner of the globe. The impacts to public health and one's financial well-being has been devastatingly quick and oftentimes tragic. The loss of life continues to toll, with the year-end COVID-19 statistics in the United States reaching 19.7 million cases and a death toll of over 342,000, which through the first part of February had already climbed to more than 460,000 deaths and a staggering 27 million cases. The state of Arkansas has amassed nearly 3,700 deaths in 2020 due to COVID-19, and from more than 225,000 reported cases. And through the early part of February, these numbers had skyrocketed to 300,000 COVID-19 cases with more than 5,000 deaths. At the local level, Garland County through early February has seen more than 200 deaths and 9,000 cases since the start of the pandemic 12 months ago. Sadly, the city lost John Harden, one of its dedicated solid waste employees, due to health complications brought on by COVID-19. I hired John several years ago. He was a long-term employee with the city, and certainly a devastating loss to lose any of our family members. Many more employees and their families have lost loved ones and continue to suffer the effects of the virus. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all the doctors, nurses, those working in healthcare sectors, warehouse and grocery workers, critical trades, and of course our own frontline essential workers at the local level. I am pleased to present the State of the City address and emphatically share the state of the city continues to be that of a strong and resilient one. Fires, floods, and pandemics are no stranger to Hot Springs, as we have faced down much adversity since our city was founded some 142 years ago. We may get knocked down, but we continue to get back up and rise to the occasion. As you will hear in the words that follow, the Hot Springs community has the resolve and determination to overcome whatever is thrown our way. I am honored to serve as your city manager alongside 600 fellow public servants, all who have endured the hardships of the past year while performing admirably and without hesitation. Now I come before you delivering a much different State of the City address than what I might have envisioned a year ago. Looking back upon the start of 2020, the optimism for our community seemed to have no end in sight, with multiple ongoing large-scale development projects and strong sales tax returns. In just a matter of months, large segments of the economy would be shut down in an effort to slow the spread of the worldwide pandemic, to keep hospitals and medical resources from being overwhelmed and exhausted. Entertainment venues and tourism-related events were canceled, with retail establishments operating only through takeout and delivery means. Most employees have at some point worked remotely or have had their hours reduced, while many have been laid off completely. We all have adjusted to living through a technology in a virtual format. From Zoom meetings to e-commerce to telehealth, the pandemic accelerated the adoption of virtual technology at a rate one could not have imagined. Additionally, the pandemic has highlighted the essential work that the city employees provide day in and day out. The important functions of city staff carry out is not something that can traditionally be done virtually. These are types of essential services done by the hardworking men and women that require to answer the call for service when it is needed the most. Across the board, public safety, solid waste, transit, utilities, and others have kept our community running in spite of the uncertainty of these times. As we fight to regain our footing, city staff stand with the Hot Springs community, ever ready to get back on top. More importantly, we have made great strides together as a community by answering the call for social and racial justice while also responding to the COVID-19 public health crisis. These challenges presented to our community were no different than the ones occurring across the nation. Although when I look back upon this past year, I am reminded of the resiliency that makes Hot Springs such a special place to live, work, and visit. I draw upon the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's wise words. So often in life, things that you regard as an impediment turn out to be great good fortune. Hopefully, we are able to gain some comfort and inspiration from these words in the months ahead. As a community, the hurdles we faced have brought us together instead of deepening the divisions among us. The collective response from the city and county leadership against COVID-19 has instilled a sense of teamwork that has been missing for too many years. At the early stages of the pandemic, when the need for masks, gloves, disinfectants, and other protective personal equipment were in high demand and short supply, the city and county leadership combined their collective resources to respond to this emerging public health threat. A multifaceted task force was started ahead of state and federal efforts here in Hot Springs and Garland County to offer call centers and drive up COVID-19 testing services for our citizens. This task force brought together public safety, first responders, emergency management, hospital and physician staff, all in cumulative efforts. Our focus was on providing critical relief to those in need, such as our senior, low-income, and homeless members of our community. Task force members are working daily and meeting weekly to track and monitor COVID-19 information so that we are able to quickly coordinate resources and aid into the hands of people who can benefit from it most. The spirit of cooperation has continued throughout this ongoing pandemic and will continue as we progress further into the vaccination phase of our state and community. Our community joined the rest of the nation in mourning the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officers and all those who are victims of systemic racism and social injustice. Unlike the property damage and loss of life that occurred in many areas, the Hot Springs community met these issues in a much different fashion. Hot Springs has long been a place of peaceful gathering since its beginning, but our history often tells a different story of racial and economic equality issues. The Unity Coalition of Garland County, a group comprised of pastors and community leaders, has pushed matters of social and racial justice to the forefront. City leadership and public safety personnel have been engaged and involved with the Unity Coalition since its inception. The trust and understanding developed through this group and others have allowed Hot Springs to locally heal the divides that have long plagued our country. The Unity Coalition is leading the way with proactive discussions on racism and prejudice so that our community can be better equipped to deal with these issues now and in the future. From response to COVID-19 and confronting racial and social injustice, there have been great strides made by this community. There is still much work to be done with administering vaccines and ensuring that our city is one that offers equitable and inclusive opportunities for all. Our citizens can be assured that whatever the future holds, your local leaders will face these challenges together. Across the state, the tourism industry continues to be an important economic engine, often referred to as Arkansas's second largest industry, with agriculture being the largest. Hot Springs has always prided itself on the scenic beauty of forested mountains and pristine lakes, all found alongside outstanding dining options and numerous attractions. Situated in the Ouachita Mountains, we offer nature lovers, history buffs, foodies, and more amenities that have earned us nationwide attention, and for good reason. COVID-19 has presented a new reality, and the impacts to our local economy has been felt directly by our visitor-based economy. Tourism was one of the first sectors to be deeply impacted by the pandemic, as measures introduced to contain the virus led to a near complete cessation of tourism activities around the world. This has consequences beyond the tourism economy, with many other sectors that support and are supported by the travel and tourism market. We are weathering the storm and making great strides towards recovery, but the statistics I'm going to share on our local economy tell two very different stories. On one hand, you will see strong growth in the city sales tax returns, but on the other hand, you will see a convention center and hospitality industry that has been left decimated. After peaking at 15.6% in April, the Hot Springs metropolitan statistical area unemployment rate slowly declined throughout 2020 and fell to 5.1% in December. The drop reflects cumulative impact of the reopening of the statewide economy and the high number of visitors enjoying the outdoor recreation opportunities of our area. Currently, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson has allowed restaurants to reopen at 2/3 capacity, with a statewide mandate to wear masks in public places. These actions have assisted the local economy and employment figures with strong visitor numbers from Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Tennessee, and Louisiana. One segment of the economy that has boomed throughout the pandemic has been the housing and real estate markets. Both residential and commercial building permit activity has increased in 2020. New residential construction saw 79 permits with improved value of $19 million, while commercial starts were 20 permits with an improvement value of $157 million. Statistics by the Arkansas Realtors Association show an increase of 18.5% in new and existing residential units sold in Garland County. This amounts to 2,014 units being sold in 2020 compared to 1,699 in 2019. The average price for residential units sold in 2020 experienced a 14.5% increase to $230,000, which has continued its upward trend into 2021. All of these increases are coming at a time both historically low housing supplies and mortgage interest rates being low. Quarantines and lockdowns have changed people's thinking of where they need to live and work. Technology has made employment locations and opportunities more mobile, and people are choosing locations with high quality of life amenities like hot springs. We braced for a grim revenue forecast as the pandemic brought about mandatory closures, reduced operations, and strict regulations on nearly all businesses in Hot Springs, especially our small and locally owned businesses. Travel restrictions and severely limited dining, along with the closure of many visitor attractions, placed a great strain on our tourism-based economy. Our community has benefited greatly from the federal assistance offered by the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, the CARES Act, and other support programs, such as the Paycheck Protection Program, increased unemployment benefits, and direct payments. These factors and many others resulted in brisk sales tax revenue growth for the city. As people turn to e-commerce as a preferred way to shop, online sales collections provided stability in our revenue collections. City and county leadership have long advocated for the collection of online sales tax, which was luckily enacted during the 2019 legislative session of the Arkansas General Assembly. Sales tax collections posted a 5.23% increase over the previous year, which I think is outstanding, certainly propped up by the capturing of online purchases. Our 1.5% sales tax rate is our main revenue source for city services, including our public safety. As we close out the financials on 2020, our grim outlook has added color with the help of the federal CARES Act funds and cost controls across city departments. The general fund will close out the year with an additional $3.8 million aided by increased sales tax revenues and spending reductions introduced at the early stages of the pandemic. Additionally, CARES Act provided $1.5 million in direct assistance to the general fund. Federal CARES Act funding also provided $2.9 million for the Federal Aviation Administration to the Hot Springs Airport, with Intracity Transit receiving $2.1 million from the Federal Transit Administration. From the cancellation of the St. Patrick's Day festivities to state basketball championship tournaments, Hot Springs has directly felt the impact of the pandemic and the grim look for our largest industry. The state's largest and busiest convention center has been shuttered since early 2020, evidenced by the $1.45 million in lost revenue. That equates to a loss of 155,000 attendees to convention center events and more than 36,000 lost room nights. Group cancellations totaled 125, but that figure continues to grow as more cancellations are being experienced in 2021. The city's 3% advertising and promotion tax collected by restaurants and motel businesses dropped over 11%, or $783,000 when compared to 2019. Layoffs have also been implemented with 31 full-time employees, nearly 50% of the A&P Commission's full-time staff. Additionally, 90 part-time employees were not filled this past year. Anticipation was overwhelming for Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort, the state's oldest gambling establishment and a cornerstone for the Hot Springs community, as their more than $100 million project was nearing completion this past year. Many people across the state and country were eagerly making plans to take part in live thoroughbred racing, or be one of the first to stay in one of the hotel rooms overlooking the horse race track until the coronavirus took hold. Governor Asa Hutchinson ordered all casinos to close beginning in March, and for the first time in more than 115 years, jockeys and horses raced for empty grandstands and no spectators. The rapid rise in casino gaming revenue for the city ended in February, after increasing some 88% when compared to the same month in 2019. The closures continued until mid-May and resulted in a drop of revenue of 55%. Even with the reduction in guest capacity, wagers have continued to increase, but are far from pre-pandemic levels. Oaklawn Racing Casino leadership should be commended for their business growth while keeping guests healthy and safe in a most challenging environment. Looking ahead to 2021, we are entering a new year with a new sense of hope and possibility. We have opportunity this year as we recover and adapt to a new post-pandemic normal to carry the sense of common purpose and compassion into our community. Although we were presented with difficult circumstances, the dedication of the Board of Directors and city staff have accomplished many great milestones in 2020. There is an addendum to this written State of the City report that includes many of these accomplishments. This momentum will carry us forward in 2021 as we commit to keeping Hot Springs as the place to be. The long-term water supply continues to be a priority with funding in the amount of $110 million in revenue bonds to construct a Lake Ouachita water supply project. This project consists of an intake structure on Lake Ouachita and 15 million gallon a day treatment plant located on Amity Road. Additionally, there will be a 17-mile raw water line that stretches across both U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. National Forest, and many other properties, terminating at the new water plant. From that point, we'll have finished water lines meandering 13 miles, ending at the new Cornerstone water tank. The former Majestic Hotel property development saw progress with the passage of a resolution in August 2020 authorizing the city attorney and the city manager to begin exclusive negotiations with Sienda Investors and Grand Point Investment Group. A development proposal was submitted by this investment and development team that offers a luxury resort and residential components with amenities using the National Park Service thermal waters. The proposal adhered to the adopted Board of Directors guiding values resolution and also included open public and civic space. An upcoming work session in March with the Board of Directors and the development team has been scheduled. It will provide an update on the status of this much anticipated project. Increased investments in our street and sidewalk infrastructure will continue to be an emphasis with funding and technology assistance. Through an agreement with First Step Pavement Management, staff produced a comprehensive street evaluation and rating system that includes video footage and a general condition report for every city street, as well as the type of repairs each street needed. The rating system also will facilitate development of a long-term plan to forecast when streets may need future repair. In 2020, the city paving budget was $896,000, but with prior year funds, the city was able to pave $1.1 million. The 2021 budget will pave close to $1.6 million. Sidewalks are seen as the framework of neighborhoods, and residents will notice a marked increase in sidewalk work in the coming year. With the Community Development Block Grant Program and partnerships with the Hot Springs High School and Safe Routes to Schools, the city will help build $482,500 in new sidewalks in 2021. The Malvern Avenue project will enhance access to the city's transit system for residents in the historic Pleasant Street and Gateway neighborhoods, with hopeful outcomes being increased access to employment, a resurgence of pride in the community, and restoration and preservation of homes in this historic district. On December 15, 2020, the board passed a resolution awarding a contract for the first part of this project, which will include brick crosswalks, sidewalks with pavers, pedestrian scale streetlights, a bus shelter, bike racks, and bike lanes. The city hosted a groundbreaking ceremony for the project on January 19, 2021. To kick off the project, Entergy is moving underground the utility wires along the west side of Malvern Avenue between Jefferson and Gulf Streets. The project is being funded by a Federal Transit Authority grant, the Community Development Block Grant, and the City of Hot Springs Complete Streets Program. The estimated completion date is July 31st, 2021. The establishment of a homeless facility was set into motion at the January 5th, 2021 meeting of the board with the passing of resolution to allocate $317,926 in additional CDBG COVID CARES Act fund money for acquisition of a quarantine shelter to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the COVID-19 public health crisis. Phase one of the acquisition would be to research and identify potential buildings or land to construct a facility. Once identified, any and all unallocated prior CDBG funds would be used to purchase and construct as needed. It is expected that the shelter would be managed by a nonprofit or several working in concert in collaboration with other area organizations to oversee services such as food, mental health, healthcare access, job readiness, and placement, etc. The HopeWorks Job Experience Program, established through a board-approved memorandum of understanding between the city and the Jackson House, facilitated the removal of more than 3.5 tons of litter from Hot Springs roadways from September 24th through December 14th. More importantly, the program proved most successful by incredible interest from area participants who experience homelessness. Those involved earn a wage and were connected to a network of support services addressing the individual's critical health and safety needs. 2 HopeWork participants have gained employment and have worked their way out of homelessness. We'd like to remember Officer Corporal Brent Scrimshire. Early in 2020, just as the pandemic was beginning to change our daily lives, the Hot Springs Police Department, the close-knit employee base at the city, and the community as a whole suffered a tragic loss of a dear friend and a brother in blue, Corporal Brent Scrimshire. Brent gave his life in the line of duty, with his end of watch being March 10th, 2020. An outpouring of love immediately began to come in, not only from the community but worldwide, to honor Brent and offer support to Brent's wife, Rachel, and for their 2 children. Brent was recognized and promoted to corporal at the Hot Springs Police Department Promotions and Badge Fitting Ceremony on August 21st, 2020, posthumously. And gifts and support for the Scrimshire family continue. Just as we recently recognized the 25th anniversary of fallen officer Chris Anderson on February 21st of this year, Corporal Brent Scrimshire and his family will always be remembered. Brent's selfless sacrifice unified our community when across the nation, communities were being torn apart from the isolating effects of COVID-19 to political and racial tensions. That's a loss we will never get over. In closing, we must remember that no single person carries the burden, the power to remedy, or the responsibility to recover in these challenging times. By reaching out together with our strengths, skills, wisdom, and energy, we will embrace whatever the future holds. Our citizen values are strong. We believe that everyone in our community should live safely, with the liberty that enables them to pursue happiness and more. As you all have demonstrated in 2020, it takes courage, respect, open-mindedness, and determination to live up to those ideals. In 2021, our foremost obligation is keeping our friends, family, and neighbors in our thoughts and our actions, because we are all, after all, in this together. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent report, Mr. Burrows. Appreciate the thoroughness and the A through Z. I appreciate that. Any questions of Mr. Burrow on his report? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the Board of Directors announcements regarding upcoming events. Any director have an upcoming event you'd like to make the public aware of?
Yes, Mayor.
Proceed, Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. As a proud member of AARP, I want to let the public know that AARP is providing free income tax filing services at the Garland County Library. The intake and interview forms are available at all times in the library foyer when the library is open. And individuals can pick those up and fill those up out ahead of time. And they can make appointments on Monday and Wednesdays, 10 to 4, and Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 to 4, now through May 15th.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for that update, and I know those services are very much appreciated. Any other director have an upcoming event? Hearing none, we'll move ahead with the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not require individual discussion and are acted upon en masse. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Director, Trustee, seconded by Director Holliday. All in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is approved. We have 3 action items that we'll be addressing this evening. The first is to consider Resolution R2116. I'd ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R21-16, a resolution awarding a contract to Christ Engineers, Inc. for work order number 4 of the Master Services Agreement for Wastewater Services. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and no discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
Director Holliday made the motion, seconded by
Elaine.
Elaine. Director Jones. Thank you. And our staff report will be provided by Mr. Todd Pillar, Engineering Project Manager. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much. This is a resolution for professional work order number 4 with Christ Engineers on our wastewater side of things. This is for the overall update of our wastewater collection system hydraulic model update, and then a study for us to look at the Gulf Basin and the alternatives to eliminate some SSOs or sanitary sewer overflows. The last time the wastewater collection model was updated was by RJN Group back in 2010. We have had a couple post-flow monitoring things done for different basins, but that was mainly for upgrades on certain lift stations. And this upgrade for the entire system will consist of 44 gravity sewer flow meters that we put out in the system and 10 rain gauges. Because over the last 10 years, we've done so much work on our wastewater collection system that now that we get the water to our major lift stations, meaning like Fairwood, Stokes, Hot Springs Creek, Gulfa, it comes to the wastewater plant just like that. So part of this hydraulic model update is to include, Christus Engineers are going to include the hydraulics of the water that goes through the wastewater plant during rain events. The amount of their professional work order will be an amount of $559,800, and it will be taken out of the board-approved 2020 wastewater bond funds.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Pillar? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any individual from the audience sign up to speak on this matter? I don't believe so. Discussion amongst directors. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Holliday. Aye. Jones. Director Jones.
Aye.
Thank you. Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Our next order of business is to consider ordinance 021-12. And I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Trustee made the motion, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, read by title only, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 021-12, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6331, the Hot Springs Water and Wastewater Standards, Specifications, Policies, and Procedures Code, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs Smith. And again, our staff report will be provided by Mr. Todd Pillar, Engineering Project Manager.
Thank you. The board approved and adopted our new 2020 standards and specifications for water and wastewater back on May 5th of 2020. And as we get started with this large Lake Ouachita water supply project, we realized that our specifications didn't cover certain material items, such as welded steel pipe, restrained joint ductile iron pipe, pressure classes of different ductile iron pipe, certain types of valves. And these revisions were made and we sent to the Arkansas Department of Health. We got approval from the Arkansas Department of Health. And these changes are really in only two sections. They're in Section 2, which is the water section, and Section 3, which is the wastewater section. The first section is policies and procedures. There were no changes made. Of course, usually I bring you stuff that has lots of zeros behind it, but this one has no financial impact on the city.
Very good. Well, we like that. So, did that complete your report, Mr. Pillar?
Yes, sir.
Any questions of Mr. Pillar?
Did the city attorney review everything and everything was okay with him?
Yes, Director, thank you.
Thank you.
Director Trustee had a question?
Yes, these changes that were made or that are proposed, are they more restrictive? Are they less restrictive? Or are they just updates,
They were really omissions
omissions?
because we're doing large 48-inch welded steel pipe. We're doing large diameter ductile iron pipe on our finished water main that Bill mentioned about. They're just specifications for materials that aren't for a typical builder, developer, what you have around town.
Okay.
There are some provisions that do provide some leniency on behalf of the engineering department. In other words, if a zinc-coated pipe is not required, the engineering department can waive that requirement because it's much less expensive to utilize.
I saw that, and I saw that some of the expected life on some of that equipment's 200 years.
Yes, sir.
Either way, so, yeah. All right.
Very good. Any further questions of Mr. Pillar from the board? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any member of the audience sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we'll proceed with discussion amongst directors. Any discussion amongst directors? Please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our
Mayor,
fin-
there's an
Oh.
emergency clause
Thank you.
associated with this particular ordinance that's found in Section 3. I'll read it in its entirety. Section 3, emergency. It is hereby found and determined that an emergency exists, and this ordinance being immediately necessary for the protection of the health, safety, public health, safety, and welfare shall be in full force and effect from and after its date of passage and approval. That concludes the reading of the emergency clause. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Dobbs Smith, seconded by
Second. Trust.
Director Trustee. All in favor of the emergency clause, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Emergency clause is adopted. Again, our final action item of the evening is to consider ordinance 021-13. Now entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Second. Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Trustee. With a motion and a second, all in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 021-13, an ordinance approving an interlocal governmental cooperative agreement between the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas and Garland County, Arkansas, pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated section 2520-101 and Arkansas Code annotated section 2674-401, declaring an emergency and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion.
moved.
We got a motion by Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Dobb Smith. And staff report will be provided by our city attorney, Mr. Brian Albright.
Thank you, Mayor. As we've discussed over the past several weeks, the extension of municipal waterworks and sewage systems throughout Garland County provides the required infrastructure for the economic development of both Garland County and the City of Hot Springs. Garland County levies a countywide 1/2 cent sales tax on all sales and uses pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated section 26-74-402 that was approved by the voters of Garland County on November 22nd of 1993. The provision of the utility services from the city's wastewater and waterworks system provide the positive impact on the revenue that's collected from the countywide sales tax as approved by the countywide electorate. The proposed ordinance and the interlocal governmental agreement that would provide an equitable allocation of the revenue collected from the countywide sales tax as it is positively impacted by the provision of city utilities. Pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated section 2674-409C, this provision provides that funds received by the counties pursuant to the provisions of this subchapter may be used by the counties for any purpose for which the general fund or county road fund may be used, including allocating portions to municipalities located therein. The proposed interlocal governmental agreement would provide for the provision of water and sewer collection and the allocation of revenue collected from the countywide sales tax as approved by the countywide electorate in a formula that's set out in the agreement. That formula essentially sets forth that the current net collections of any given year minus the previous year as multiplied by 1.036 would give you the raw number that would be subject to allocation based on a per capita division, and that would be based on the U.S. Census figures. This agreement was submitted to the Quorum Court on Monday, February the 8th, and it was approved by the Quorum Court. I think it was 11-2 vote. There were 9 members of the Quorum Court that wished to sponsor this agreement, and it is here for your consideration this evening.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Albright?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia, proceed.
Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question. I wanted to thank you and the city manager for all the work that you did on this and bringing this forward. We are all about economic development, and we know that that was at your heart in moving this forward, as well as our county judge and quorum court. So thank everybody that was involved in making this possible to bring it to the board tonight. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments directed at Mr. Albright? All right. Any member of the public want to speak on this item? Discussion amongst directors. I think we all are most appreciative of Mr. Burrow and Mr. Albright's work on this, along with the counterpart, the county judge and the county attorney. There's always going to be differences between our governments and sometimes what our focus is, but there was certainly a meeting of the minds here, and this has now been put to rest, and we can move forward and and continue to work together in other areas. So we look forward to doing that, you know, in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. So thanks again to all your hard work.
Mayor, I would just point out that this agreement would have an effective date of April 1.
April 1, and I know we have an emergency clause on this.
Emergency clause associated with the ordinance, and
As
if that's
well,
passed,
so.
then the agreement would become.
I wanted to get that in before you reminded me.
Yes,
we had
sir.
the emergency clause. So if there's no further discussion, please call the, Director Trustee, I'm
Just
sorry.
one point of clarification. The funds that the city receives from this interlocal agreement are not restricted. They are general funds.
Their
Is that
general
correct?
fund.
That's right.
Yes. Okay.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye, and this ordinance is approved.
But,
That was a hard one.
wait,
We got
What?
one more.
That's
I messed up. That was me. Director
Dobbs.
Dobbs-Smith.
I don't know, I'm thinking about it. No, aye.
Oh, did
I'm
you?
sorry, that was my fault.
Your fault. Yeah, I'm not putting hash marks down. Oh, boy, we're gonna have to talk to her.
Note that that was
All right,
unanimous.
well, we got, in a roundabout way, we got everybody accounted for, and the gavel was struck. So now we're gonna go to the emergency clause.
And we'll note that that was unanimous, Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
Emergency clause is section 2. I'll read it in its entirety. Section 2, emergency clause, adoption of this ordinance and the provisions of water and sewer collection with the interlocal governmental cooperative agreement are essential to the public health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the city of Hot Springs and its environs. Emergency is therefore declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after the time of its passage. That concludes your reading of the emergency clause. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause. Director
Second.
Weatherford, seconded by Director Trustee. All in favor of the emergency clause signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Emergency clause is adopted. And that concludes our business action items for this evening. We do have an area under Board of Directors items for discussion. Do board members have any particular item they'd like to bring up and discuss?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to do another shout out to our fire department. The city manager mentioned all the hard work, extra work they did last week. But I took my mother out to the fairgrounds today for her COVID vaccination. And I was so proud to see all of the work our fire department members were out there and helping with that overall process. And I appreciate all they did. And they had a very hard long week last week, and extra time and that they individually put in. And then they were so pleasant with everyone that touched today, and they are really appreciated. And I just, as a warning to you, I've gotten my second COVID shot, and so warning, I will be back next week.
All right. Time to schedule that work session.
That's what we were waiting on.
I know, I think the chief of police, Chapman, heard that, so take extra precautions when she returns. Any other comments from directors, items for discussion?
I also want to just give my appreciation to everyone at the city that worked this weekend. I think I was bothered Bill quite a bit with the calls that I got. I know I wasn't the only one, but a lot of people in my district as well as District 3 were in that 1%. And yeah, I know a lot of people worked long hours to make sure that it was only that 1%, and then they got their water back as well. So I definitely appreciate all the hours everyone put in this weekend.
Any other comments or questions?
Mayor, I'm not a director, but I was trying to get through that state of the city there at the end, and I was remiss in thanking Lance Spicer, Aaron Street, Sheila Winter, and several others that helped with the data that went into that report. And as most of you know, Lance authors most of that, had a lot of help with Aaron this year, and then me changing things on them all the time and putting this and that in there. So just want to thank them for all their hard work on the State of the City report. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. I'd like to, again, as everybody has recognized, the hard work of a number of the city departments in their efforts to secure water, continually provide water. They were working 24/7, and probably some of them themselves just worked 24 hours or 36 hours in a row before they got any relief. And I also want to do a shout out to the citizens who are on the Hot Springs Municipal Water System. I got a number of calls during this period of time, and they were talking about, are we still required to conserve? What's the outlook? And as I explained the situation to them, they were very understanding and says, okay, no shot, we're not doing laundry today and this and that. And so there was buy-in within our community. And, we would not have gotten out of this, even with all the great work of the city staff, we would not have been able to maintain our system if we didn't get buy-in from those who are our end users of the water. And so I want to give a shout out to all of them for their patience and their understanding. And I know that at times that there's some frustrations, but those were minimal compared to those people who really bought in and recognized, the challenge that we were having. And again, once they understood it, and they were part of the team. So certainly do appreciate that. My final item is recognition for the city of Hot Springs, and I know that the county would have gotten similar recognition for the efforts in the taking of the 2020 census. It says the U.S. Census Bureau hereby recognizes Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas as an invaluable member of the 2020 Census Community Partnership and Engagement Program. We appreciate the efforts you made in making the partnership program a success in helping achieve a successful 2020 census. Stephen Dillaham, Director of the U.S. Census Bureau. And I want to specifically call out within the planning department, Rick Stoddard and Kim Burks, within IS, Mary Donaldson, Harmony Morrissey, city clerk. I know that Lance Spicer, deputy city manager, was intricately involved in coordinating or heading the entire county system. Was Esther Dixon, JP District 3, and all of her work. We know that the census in 2020 the undertaking of the census is like no other with COVID and all the challenges, and so much depends on it, from federal funding and population counts, per capita funding. It's real important, and I want to thank all of those who extended themselves in this area. It was the most difficult time, right at the very infancy, and then really in the peak of COVID. So thank each and every one of you that I've mentioned, and I know behind each and every one of you there are others. So thank you again. So in closing, any other comments? I'll take Elaine, you got anything?
Yes, Mayor. Director Garcia had her second shot, and I had my second shot. Mine made me sleepy, and hers made her giddy. I know she talked more than I did tonight. But Mayor,
Oh my God.
you know what time it is, don't you?
I'm waiting on it.
City manager, you did a great job tonight. I'm gonna brag on you because you were short-winded. You had your second shot.
Thank you.
Okay. Mayor McKay, I move that we adjourn for the night since everybody's ready to leave.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
Well, before I ask for the vote, I do want to ask that, Elaine, will you delay your arrival a couple meetings after Director Garcia? Because I'm not sure we can handle you both at the same time. We need to work back into this just a little bit. All right, all in favor of
Okay.
adjourning, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are going home. Thank you.
Good night.
Next meeting is the 6 o'clock meeting, so don't be late. You'll miss a meeting.
That's right.
Thank you.